DDG episode 227. My name is Dave, and I'm joined by Michael.
How's it going, Dave? You're back from your Canadian voyage or whatever exactly you did. It was a trip that you'd been planning for a while, but then just forgot to talk about before.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that I would be going to Toronto and stuff like that, or going out of town, and then I just kind of, like, we knew we had stuff to do, like, scheduled to do, like, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so I was like, oh, okay, like, we were hemming and hawing about, did we drive out Wednesday? And I was like, okay, well, if we don't, then we could record Tuesday or Wednesday, and then we could leave in the morning. And so then when we finally made the decision, I think like a week or 10 days before we left, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, Ansel made the decision, like, she booked a hotel, and we're like, okay. And then I think on, like,
Sunday,
I told Michael, I'm like, oh crap, I forgot, I'm going out of town.
Yeah, I'm going to Canada. Like, not out of town, just like I'm going out of country. It is just Canada, but still, it was just like, oh yeah, you know what? Let me look at the news. Oh, you know what, Dave? Go ahead.
He gave me permission to miss. But yeah, in fairness, we would have figured something out if anything happened.
Yeah,
like
we were
I think
planning.
In 2024 with the technology and with how my phone functions, I think I could have made do.
If there was some groundbreaking news, maybe we would have done a 10-15 minute episode. But luckily, it's summer, and it seems like the video game industry is on a little bit of a summer break still.
As well as people downloading, listening, and reviewing to the show. So if you are one of our active listeners, we appreciate you and thank you. Please leave a review. It's been like years. I think I looked today because I got a new phone. So I was messing with some of the phone stuff. I think the last review that anybody left for us was like 2021.
It's been a while.
2024.
And we have some new listeners since then, so it's like, come on.
Yeah, so please consider like leaving a review. A written review, something like, even if you write great show, great community, or whatever you write, sometimes just giving it a star rating or like a 1 out of 5 rating or something like that helps the overall score. But it doesn't. If anybody's debating about listening to the show, they'll read like the most recent written thing. Even Ansel does that when she's shopping. She's like, or looking at hotels as an example. Let me look at the last 3 or 4 recent reviews of somebody that stayed there last month. Is this worth going to? Yeah. So that's kind of how podcasts work, I guess, I think. So please consider leaving us a review. So whatever podcast service you use, Podcast Addict, Spotify, Google Music, Google Play, whatever it's called, Apple's podcast, Apple Music. I don't know what any of
it's
stuff's
just
called,
Apple Podcast and YouTube Music now.
Yeah,
and Spotify lets you do individual episodes, which I don't know how exactly it does that, but
right. Whatever platform you're listening to us on, we appreciate that, and just please consider leaving a review. However, if you're watching us live on Twitch or on YouTube, then there's not really a way for you to leave us a review, but you can subscribe on YouTube, that's free. You can follow on Twitch, that's free. You can subscribe on Twitch, which is a paid subscription that helps to support us monetarily. Or if you have Amazon Prime, just coming off these Prime Day stuff, maybe you got somebody gifted you a free session or something. You can link that with your Twitch account, and you'll get Prime Gaming, which you get a bunch of cool free game stuff, mostly like cosmetic stuff, skins and battle pass things. But you also get a free subscription to a streamer of your choice. So please consider using that subscription on us. If you already have your Prime subscription, if you used it on ours before, you just go on your mobile device, like go to our page on Twitch on the app, and you can actually click subscribe or resubscribe right there on the app. We don't have to be live for you to do that. So please consider doing that. It helps small monetarily amounts, and also you're not just giving money to Amazon. So everything else is linked in the show notes, or you can check out digitaldaysgaming.com. But mainly the show notes will have the links to the social media, the Discord, the Twitters, Facebooks, all that stuff is there as well as Patreon. And we did just release a new Patreon thing. So for those of you that maybe have not looked at the Patreon app recently, check it out. We did release something in Patreon. Us kind of looking at the next 6 months of releases from July until the end of 2024. So that's patreon.com/digitaldaysgaming. And I think that shows up on most people's feeds if they're subscribed and they linked their podcast services to their Patreon, which you can do that also. So, but everything else is in the show notes, so check it out, and we're going to jump into the news.
Yeah, so like I said earlier, news wasn't crazy heavy, but there is some stuff stirring. First one is, I'm sorry, we're going to talk about the Activision Blizzard merger, because that, while we've kind of gotten past the fact that like it's a done deal, the FTC is still in the middle of doing their appeal, and they have filed more claims against Microsoft, or evidence, as they're basically putting together as they get their appeal through the court system. And basically, they are accusing Microsoft of product degradation. And basically, FTC is claiming that the new tiers, and the tiers specifically with lacking day one releases, along with the price hikes, are anti-consumer and consumer harm that the FTC was trying to prevent from happening by blocking the merger. That, on top of the layoffs, are basically everything the FTC was kind of warning against, and it's showing Microsoft, now that it has like this monopoly power, is kind of flexing its muscle by raising prices, removing content technically, and then also laying people off. So it's basically stuff that Microsoft didn't outright say they wouldn't do, but they also didn't do the it's a weird thing. We're getting into like legal what they said versus what they meant.
You're getting into schematics of like how they word things and what they do, and they really, they had access to some of the books, but maybe they didn't really see what it truly was like. So I mean, I think all of us knew this was coming. Because the FTCs didn't want it to go through, and they kind of got outvoted and I think the only word that comes to mind is like they got out bureaucrated.
Yeah, they put together a very poor performance in the proceedings, the court proceedings, and it showed. Yeah. And basically, Microsoft did make some promises that they wouldn't increase the price due to the merger. Microsoft has already said like these claims are factually wrong, incomplete, or misleading, because their stance is we raise the prices not because of the merger, but because the quality of the games coming to Game Pass have increased, which is
because
both sides are true. You know, it's like if you're the FTC, it's like, okay, the merger made you increase the prices, and Xbox is like, no, it's just the products coming from the Xbox Game Studios family.
Yeah, Starfield's part of it. Indiana Jones is part of it. Hellblade is part of it. You can claim all that stuff. Call of Duty is part of it. Like the quality, or the not quality is a relative term. The quantity of content has increased.
Yeah, and the way Microsoft looks at Activision Blizzard Studios now is not their Activision Blizzard Studios. They're Microsoft Xbox Game Studios now.
Right, which they are.
Yeah, but they had told the FTC, we're not going to raise prices because of the merger. So we're going to get into probably an instance where they're going to go to the appeals court and they're going to fight over this, but I don't think this is going to lead to them undoing the merger. It can, but that would take years for them to break everything back down and set fire.
And by then, Microsoft would split it off slowly.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
If they felt that was happening, you would see Microsoft sell off the pieces.
Yeah, and then those pieces would most likely just die, basically.
Right.
Or what more likely would happen is this goes to appeals court and maybe some fines end up getting hit by Microsoft, which Microsoft will just eat any fines that come their way because it just won't matter. But this does just make it a little bit more of a headache, and I think this is a good thing to bring up, on this episode, is just like, this is why we're seeing some of that squeeze from Microsoft on Xbox to start producing, more money, subscribers, money from the current subscribers, just produce something revenue-wise, because this is going to be a headache for several years for Microsoft.
Yeah, I agree it's going to be a headache, but at the same time, the argument, if Microsoft comes out next quarter or next year and says, oh, revenue's increased, everybody's like, well, it's because you increased the price. You didn't get any more. You didn't get any new people. You increased the price. So they're never going to get the true credit, even if they do increase subscribers. Who knows if they will or won't.
But if you're Microsoft, not Xbox, you don't care. Right. At that point, you're just like, if you're making more money,
where's the ROI?
Yeah, and that's what this is going to come down to, and that's where you're going to see the pressure on, Phil Spencer, Xbox, to produce as much money as possible. So this is going to be kind of, I wouldn't say ugly, but it's going to be an annoyance for Microsoft for the next couple years.
Like it or not, we're going to see just like we saw with Halo, but we're going to see a tremendous spike in November when Call of Duty comes to Game Pass. Like, you're gonna see it, whether somebody owns an Xbox or they're playing it on the Microsoft Store on PC. Like, you're gonna see that spike because it's one of those things. Like, you're gonna have a huge majority of people that are like, you know what, I just play Call of Duty. And I'm fine with whatever box or PC they own. They're just buying Call of Duty for $70 or $100 for the deluxe edition or whatever. But you are going to see those other people that I promise you're going to have to go through like 3 screens to buy Call of Duty by itself. And it's going to be like, like immediately, like off the bat, like just off the top of my head, you can play Starfield, Hellblade, and Indiana Jones along with Call of Duty for $20 a month. Or whatever it is. Like, it's going to be all over there, and people are going to do that because they're like, wait, that's, if I spend $70 on the game, 20, 40, 60, that's, like whatever, 4 months of Game Pass. And then they might see like there's a bunch of stuff in there, and you'll see the increase of player base of something, because we're always going to have that post Call of Duty holiday break game that everybody talks about, and there is a high potential possibility that game that's talked about from December 20th to New Year's Day, when everybody's on holiday break or school break, could be something potentially that's on Game Pass. Like, there's been a couple things that have just came out. I can't think of any of them off the top of my head because I feel very disconnected from the game industry the last couple of days. But there's been a couple of games in July that have come to Game Pass that have been like Flintlock, and there's another one there that hero dungeon crawler Zelda clone like game that came. I can't think of the name of that right now. I'm sorry. Those have all come to Game Pass in July, and those are the kind of games that you start hearing talked about in the holiday season because people are going back and playing them. All the writers are on break and they're playing their games on a holiday break, and they're tweeting about them or putting them in Discords, and they're like, oh, and you can play it on Game Pass. Oh, I got that with Call of Duty. I got 3 months free or whatever, or and you're gonna see it. Now, is it gonna mean that you're gonna get like 40 million more subscribers? No. But are you gonna get 2 million more? 2.5, 3? Like, I don't know.
We'll see a jump because Modern Warfare 3 is coming this week to Game Pass. So that's going to be a big one, and that's going to be like, you'll probably see some Call of Duty players dip their toes into Game Pass for the first time, even though this is an old game, but they might just see how it goes. This might be the thing that
they'll never say it, but you're going to see a spike in Series S sales too, just because of early entry price point. You might bring it up, but I think people are buying the Series S and playing football.
No, I was going to talk about this with college football. I did go GameStop hunting this past week. Yeah. And literally I was in the store and it took so long for me to check out because there were 4 people in there for college football, like ahead of me. And 2 of them were buying an Xbox Series S because they came in and they're like, what's the cheapest way for me to play college football?
And college football is not a game that people really care about frames or anything like that. Like, it's just I mean, like, I don't even know what frames it runs at. It's one of those things where you can
good enough,
Right. Yeah. Like, so you can spend $300 on a Series S, $70 on the game, and I think $70 on Live or whatever their version of online is now, the Game Pass Core. That's like 10. It's like 100, or what is it? Like $10 a month or $80 a year or something.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're around $460, for that, and then the cheapest way, and it's not a dig on PlayStation when I say this, but the cheapest way to do it on PlayStation is the digital console. That's $400. I think it's $450 now, actually, the slim version. Plus, which is PS Plus, which is $80 for the year, the game.
Yeah, but there's a chance that you don't even, if you're college football.
Yeah, if you're just going to play Road to the Glory and Dynasty, you don't even have to buy the service.
Yeah.
So you can walk out the door $370 plus tax.
Yep.
For a Series S. Like, that's cheaper than just buying a PS5. I said 4 earlier, sorry.
Yeah.
So I do think that we will see a increase in Xbox hardware sales the second half of the year.
Yeah.
With a combination of Call of Duty and with riding the tails of college football, because that what we called for years that Call of Duty Madden bro, like, is now it's been 11 years since they could play college football.
Yeah. And like when we were like in the GameStop, these people were talking about like, I have not bought a console in a while. Oh, someone was saying like, I didn't know my current console couldn't play it, so I'm here to just get what I can. Yep. And the cheapest one was...
And those players 11 years ago, Michael, what console did they own?
And that's the thing, is like we don't know. Like, I mean, there's a good chance
more than likely it was
60.
Xbox.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a 360 because we're talking about 360 PS3 days. Near the end, PS3 won.
Yeah.
But at the beginning, Xbox was way ahead. So if these were the Call of Duty Madden guys, Call of Duty and college football guys, NCAA guys, they probably still had Xbox because crossplay wasn't even a thing.
Yeah.
So like they just stayed with the platform that they're, even if they were or weren't online, they just stayed with the platform they were comfortable with. And now somebody like me that's, like 41 years old that hasn't been able to play the game since they were 30, I probably had I had a PS3. I was, because of at the time what I was covering and how it just worked and functionality wise. But I think a lot of times they went from Xbox to Xbox 360, and then they made the change to PS4 when Call of Duty exclusivity went to PS4. So now we're kind of seeing that possibility, that pendulum swing back with Call of Duty being a hardware. We know it's a hardware driver. It's not going to affect PlayStation's hardware.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to make clear.
It's not going to affect PlayStation's hardware. They're going to keep buying that. Like I'm not demeaning that. They're not winning. They're going to take a dent in it though. They're going to take a chunk.
There's a chance that like previous holidays we've heard it's been 3-1, 4-1 PlayStation versus Xbox sales.
Now it's maybe 2-1.
Yeah, it might be 2-1, or instead of 4-1, it'll be 3-1. Like we'll see an increase. And those people that like I saw that were just like, I haven't gamed for 10 years. I'm buying college football. You turn on your Xbox, it's impossible not to get a Game Pass ad on that dashboard. Yeah. And then they're going to be like, well, that's, and if they haven't played in a while,
it's impossible not to look and think about it too.
And like, if you've never subscribed before, you'll get like a deal for like here's a 7-day, 14-day trial, and they're going to jump aboard. And then they're going to realize that like, oh shit, digital games are kind of great because these are people that don't care about like physical media at this point.
And they're going to learn about digital games because they're buying a Series S.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like the Series S is going to be a little bit more addicting for them because it's like, oh, I don't have to go get a disc or anything like that. This console disc will take my credit card, and that's going to be a revelation.
I can tuck it in my media cabinet and not ever touch it.
Yeah, huh? That's going to be, and I know people listening are going to be like, you've been able to do digital games for a while, but I'm talking about the Call of Duty.
That guy that lives 3 doors down from you that is a huge college football fan or has the, wherever you live, if you live in Connecticut, for some reason has a Yukon flag hanging out of his thing, living down the street from Palmer, hasn't played video games for 10 years. I was seeing I know I'm in a different realm with my algorithms on social media, but I was seeing like the world of like book talk where people's wives were like, I bought, like an Xbox or a PlayStation in college football so I could, for my husband, so I could read my books more. Like, here, go play. Go, leave me alone. So,
which also, like, hey, if you want to destroy some people in college football, it's like, this is the time to do it. Because you have people that haven't picked up a controller in 10, 15 years who are going to try and do online because they were kind of good in college. So you're going to get a lot of people that are going to be jumping into this ecosystem. And there's a reason why, other than, like, price shock, that you can only buy Game Pass Ultimate in 1 month, 3 month increments, know? To where like they know that there are going to be players that are going to hop in a Game Pass for a month or 3 months to play the game they want to play, and then they bounce out until the next thing comes around.
Microsoft Gaming or Xbox, whatever you want to call it. It's their job to make sure that they're hitting them with something every 45 to 60 days.
Yeah,
like something.
Just when their 3 months going to expire, they let it lapse or let it or they resubscribe. Let it renew.
Or you're going to get that email like, hey, we saw that this expired 2 weeks ago, but did you see that we released this game on it today?
Yeah.
Like,
but back to the whole thing, the FTC definitely has some ground to stand on against this. It's just what it actually means as a result is probably
Microsoft's going to write a check and have it go away.
Most likely.
Yeah.
But again, we were talking about a couple weeks ago that like eventually we're going to hear during the debate about like Call of Duty console exclusivity, and it's going to be an eye roll situation.
The younger lady will bring it up. That's all I'm saying.
Oh yeah. Most likely. But yeah, we'll move on from FTC stuff. The next news, I just put this in here because it's kind of interesting. Multiversus Studios has been acquired by Warner Brothers, so the Multiversus Studio Player First Games was officially acquired by WBD. The game has seen some decent success, not as much as it saw in its beta period, but it's still doing pretty well and has like Samurai Jack coming, rumors of Barbie, Harry Potter coming in the future, along with new ranked mode and other modes. So the game's pretty healthy, and it seems to be healthy enough that Warner Brothers Discovery is like, you know what, let's acquire this, even though
I didn't know they didn't own it.
They didn't own it, but also 1 to 2 years ago, Warner Brothers Discovery was like, we need to get out of our game studios.
Well, just in general, Warner Brothers seems to all of a sudden have like this influx of cash.
For the games, yeah.
Well, they own TNT.
Yeah, they own TNT.
So, I don't know if you've been paying attention to this or not. This
I did.
Is getting a little off track.
I was happy yesterday, and then about 2 hours ago.
All right, so I'm trying to think of a TLDR version of this. So NBA television rights were up. TNT's had the NBA television rights since I was a child.
It's been like 20, 30 years.
Yeah. And so they have Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal and, I can't think of his name right now, the main host, Ernie Johnson, thank you, that are all tied to Turner or TNT, which is owned by WB. And so the television contracts were up. Amazon's coming in there with this huge contract or this huge bid, and Disney's in there with ESPN and everything. And based on TNT's contract with the NBA, they could match. They once somebody made an offer that the NBA wanted to accept, Turner was allowed to see the offer to see if they can match it. I haven't read into it anymore, but allegedly they saw the offer, waited a couple of days, said that they matched the offer, and then the NBA came back and said, that's not really a match because I think Amazon's putting money in an escrow fund or something. Mm-hmm. There's something funky going on with it, and they're not saying it's a match. So the NBA actually turned down TNT's deal. So, near the end of the playoffs, we thought, this is the end of it on TNT. Earlier in this week, TNT can match it. People had a little grasp of hope, and then today the NBA came out and said, we declined the match.
Yeah.
So it's going to Amazon. So, but the point of it is that whatever Amazon put up, whatever mumbo jumbo TNT tried to do, they did somehow kind of match something, which was a ton of cash. So somebody on their board had to put up a ton of cash to try
billions.
to try to even get the NBA to be like, oh, okay, we really got to read this. And then it didn't take them very long to read it and decide they didn't want it. But even to get it back on the NBA's table, because everybody thought TNT was dead in the water in June. So there's something just going on, especially when I can recall a year, 2 years, 3 years ago, we were debating about what would happen to Warner's if it got sectioned off into 4 or 5 different things, because it sounded like they didn't even want to be in the business at all.
Yeah, Warner Brothers is definitely in a weird spot in terms of they wanted to get out of gaming. Hogwarts Legacy did really fucking well for them and made them kind of excited for gaming again. Suicide Squad made them suicidal, basically. And then you also have Multiverses, which is showing a little bit of hope for their gaming division. So they're investing.
Mortal Kombat came out to high praise.
Yeah, and Mortal Kombat did pretty well too. And also Mortal Kombat's been really good for them in terms of the crossover stuff, because they have Peacemaker in there, they have Homelander in there. So there's that corporate synergy shit that Multiverses is all about. So there's hope. And then also we have the Hogwarts Quidditch game coming out next month for PlayStation Plus. So Warner Brothers seems to be invigorated gaming wise, which is why they're hey, let's just lock down the studio. Even if this game isn't as big as it was when it was in the beta, there's promise here. I would say just because the deal with Amazon or with the NBA fell through doesn't mean that money is now just freely available. For them to do stuff.
I think it was an independent investor.
Yeah. That is going to be
don't expect them to be we couldn't get the TV rights, so now we're going to go buy EA. That's not happening.
No, it's funny because I watch a lot of wrestling. AEW's contract is up with Warner Brothers, and they have to renew it. And when the TNT deal was announced, or when Amazon announced that they were getting the NBA, people were oh, cool, they can give that money to wrestling. Wrestling would get that type of money.
I'm not laughing at wrestling, but I'm laughing at that's how people think certain things work.
Yeah, no, exactly. They're well, now Warner Brothers needs a sport to fill the gap for the NBA. And it's wrestling's not going to be the gap. And also wrestling is a drop in a bucket financially to TNT. So, there's a lot of people, trying to figure out what the fuck Warner Brothers is going to even do at this point. Yeah. And it sounds like they're going to invest a little bit more in their gaming. There's talks about HBO Max, or Max going back to being HBO. because
that was part of their pitch that we heard, that they
Yeah.
were going to stream games on Max,
which
like
they have
basketball
been.
games on Max.
They have been, and it's been in beta, and it works
Yeah.
well enough. But that was them being like, okay, we need to show the NBA that we can do streaming.
Right. We have a counterpunch to Amazon Prime.
Yeah, because the NBA was worried about TNT of just like, hey, the cable market is dwindling, and we don't wanna...
And I mean, I don't want to go down a huge tangent, but I think a lot of these companies are very terrified about what's going on with Diamond Sports or Bally, like in terms of the sport television industry, and Bally Sports, which is where, like, I would assume, Michael, for you, where like I think Bally's probably does the White Sox and the Cubs.
No. So the Cubs,
White Sox,
the Cubs broke off
WGN
into
is still.
The Cubs broke off into their own thing, like the
But
Yankees
the White Sox
did.
are on Bally and the Bulls are on Bally.
No, the Bulls and White Sox.
Oh, you have your own Chicago sports network that old boy owns or something, right?
Yeah, he made his own networks.
Reinsdorf.
Yeah, so
Reinsdorf.
both companies.
So that might, like, the Chicago teams might be a bad example. In Detroit, the Pistons and the Red Wings and the Tigers are on Bally Sports, which, if you go really far back, was like Fox Sports 1. Years ago, and that company, Diamond Sports or something like that, is like going bankrupt. Like,
NBC
and
Chicago is basically like, it's a subsidiary of Comcast, but they're also financially kind of going bankrupt.
So like, there's certain point in times where there's like 80% of metropolitan Detroit can't watch the Tigers right now because they don't have a contract with Comcast. So it's just really bad, and I think that there's with that going on, I think the NBA is terrified of, like, oh, well, we can't have somebody in a media contract that might not be able to pay the bill. I'm not saying that TNT and Warner can't pay the bill, but Amazon can pay the bill.
Yeah.
Blindfolded.
Yeah, and it just puts Warner Brothers in a weird spot to where you will see Warner Brothers. I'm not saying Warner Brothers can take the $1.8 billion a year they were going to give the NBA, but you're going to see them like kind of reinvest in certain aspects, and it looks like the gaming division might see a little bit of investment going forward as they kind of have to move their company around, because them losing the NBA is a huge blow to like that company. Because
I mean, like, circling all the way back to even something as basic as Ernie Johnson, like you mentioned, probably one of the best hosts / anchors in the sporting industry, if not the best. What does he do now? He's contracted to TNT.
Yeah, he said he's going to go down with the ship, which means he's going to probably do NCAA, because they do have the men's tournament still.
But that means he's not on television like 9 months out of the year.
Yeah, which is a shame. Unless he can do NHL coverage, because I know they have the NHL contract for the next couple of years. And Charles Barkley said that he's going to retire because he's loyal to TNT, but he isn't going to
that's until Amazon writes him the right size check, I think.
I think he'll go if the whole crew goes.
Yeah, I would agree. If Shaq and Kenny go, then he'll go. But Ernie, and there's a possibility that they could try to subcontract Ernie too. Like, and I don't know if he would or wouldn't do it. They could probably keep it in Atlanta. I mean, Amazon. We've seen ESPN do certain things for certain people. It could get super, super interesting. But that would just mean, to your point, that would just mean more money for Warner. Because Amazon would be paying for what's his name, Kirk Herbstreit for ESPN. He does Amazon stuff.
Yeah.
So like for the Amazon football. So it's not unprecedented, and it's not impossible.
Yeah. So you will probably see like an increase investment in some of the gaming market and also some of their television market as they kind of scramble what to do.
Right.
This is funny because this is like one of the first like video game acquisitions we had in a while, and it immediately, because of who was acquiring them, got buried because of everything going around with that parent company.
Yeah.
Your parent company loses like a
major four sport.
Yeah, almost $2 billion a year deal. And
this would be like if Fox lost the NFL rights or something.
Yeah. So this is one of those things that Warner Brothers is going to be something to keep an eye on, just to see what they want to do with the future of their gaming division, because we're talking about a company, like I said, like 2 years ago was like, we need to get out, and they were actively shopping their studios around, to having like 3 solid video game success stories come out during that time, and this having them pivot to be like, actually, maybe gaming's not so bad, and we also have a library of IP that we can probably start applying to some of these studios. Warner Brothers is like kind of re-establishing themselves in like the gaming division, which I guess is good to see, because we don't want to see studios close, and we don't want the publishers to just be Sony and Microsoft. So it's good to have a third party actually showing a little bit of strength right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
In uncertain times for that company. All right, last story is just a reminder. The Xbox 360 store is closing in about 5 days or 4 days when you're listening to this on Thursday. So they put like over, I think it's like over 100, 200 games on sale for the Xbox 360 store that aren't backwards compatible. So pick up some games if you want to play them in the future. I mean, there's some weird stuff that's on sale right now that could be worth playing that will basically die when the store closes in terms of new people being able to purchase that stuff. Though I'm sure there's people doing some emulator work out there that have figured out a way to get these games on PC. 360 store is closing. I'm just going to say start the countdown timer. Sometime this year, PlayStation will officially announce the Vita PS3.
Will they announce a closure before the end of 2024?
I think...
Or no, I take it back. I think they'll announce it. Will it close before the calendar changes to 2025?
I think they'll give like a 3-month warning. Xbox gave like a whole year warning, but I can see PlayStation being like... March seems to be like the time you'd want to do it, like before like the fiscal year ends. So I could see in December them saying like, hey, March, we're closing the... I think it would be... The PSP store would definitely close, but the Vita store is still open and the PS3 store is still open. So I think both of those will just end up closing. I doubt they're going to do sales like the 360 store did, but they're the last one of that generation still open. There seems very little reason for them to do it. And if you try and go on the PlayStation store right now on the PS3, they are not doing proper maintenance on that store, and it is just falling apart. It's so weird seeing something digital fall apart, but if you go on that store, it is a mess to navigate. The tagging feature is broken. The search functionality is kind of broken. It is definitely in a sad state. So I could see them definitely closing that relatively soon, especially now that the 360 store is closed. You know, we're talking about the Wii store has been closed, the Wii U store is closed, now the 360 store is closed. So it's just a matter of time. If you like the stuff from that generation, you might want to turn on your 360 one last time before the 29th just to see if there's anything worth
swipe
grabbing.
your card, spend about $60, you can get like 60 games.
Honestly, there's some games they drop down to 49 cents. So there's some weird stuff. You could $10 goes a long way during this sale. That is all I had for the news.
All right. Why don't you go ahead and go first with what playing and watching? Mine's going to be a little bit longer because I'm going to talk about my trip and stuff too, and then I think I can piggyback a little bit on some of your Concord talk.
Yeah, all right. So the main thing that I played the last 2 weeks, or specifically the last 2 weekends, was the Concord closed beta and then open beta. I will say it wasn't a good sign at opening weekend, their closed beta weekend, when they were like, actually, this is an open beta for PS Plus members. That was most likely because the player counts on PC are abysmal, and they needed to get players into these servers. I don't think this game is going to be a success on PC based off those open beta numbers, especially when you didn't need to pre-order to get into it. I will say this game has a tough road to go, like, moving forward.
Nothing wrong with the quality of the game, but for some reason I think the little bit that I played, it's solid. And you can probably delve into that a little bit better than I can because of, like, not even your Overwatch thing, but your Overwatch is a factor. Your time with the finals is a factor. Your time with hero shooters in general, Apex, is a factor. My time with Destiny is about a 3% factor in this. Go ahead.
I would say, like, with all the experience, because I have thousands of hours in Overwatch, hundreds of hours in Apex, dozens of hours in the finals, and a little bit of time in Valorant. Shooting-wise, mechanic-wise, I think they have something that's fun to play. It's entertaining. The shooter feels good. I forget the pedigree from the studio. I want to say there's some ex-Bungie people there and some other, like, FPS studios. So there's definitely pedigree there that you can see and feel when you're actually playing the game. The thing that is not working for this game is everything kind of around it. And I'm talking about stuff in the game and stuff outside the game. The tricks that this game does, or the gimmicks that it has, that it does really well, is the ability to, or the fact that, like, special things that the characters can do, like build walls, set traps, are basically static throughout the whole game unless they get destroyed, which is something I don't remember any other hero shooter doing. Usually if you build a wall, once you die, that wall gets killed with you.
Right.
This game, it will stay static unless it's been destroyed. That was something that I got to see a couple times done really well. One thing I will say, during the 40-ish games that I played over the course of 2 weekends, there was a problem in this game of there is no quit penalty. So there were a lot of instances...
Not uncommon in a beta.
Not uncommon in a beta. There's low stakes to it. I wish there was something in there to like penalize people. Other shooters have done like a timeout where it's like, hey, you quit, it's going to take 2 more minutes before you to time out. But it's a beta. They want people to play, not
do they really? Yeah, do they really want to do that when maybe the numbers were already kind of low?
Yeah. So there's a reason they wouldn't do that. It's something I hope that they add to the main game.
I agree. Yeah, I heard a lot of conversation around
that.
Yeah,
because we're talking about 10-minute matches, so it's not like it's super long. But what usually would happen is, someone would join a game, see that their hero that they wanted to pick was chosen, and then be like, fuck this, I'm quitting. So this would lead to a lot of instances where it's 5v2, 5v3, those sort of scenarios. One game that I had, it was 5v1. And this person didn't quit. They were doing a really good job of experimenting. By every time they died, they would just pick another player that could lay traps or make walls, to where they eventually, towards the end of the game, built a really solid kill room. Because they would just, they would jump to characters that had turrets, had like explosives, could build walls, and they were just kind of going to the same place and get killed, but every time they would leave a little bit more traps, to where you could really see the potential in this horrible instance for that person. What things can happen dynamically in a match if you have a team working together and putting those traps up and using the character abilities as they should. So you have to see someone do a really good job of like experimenting to seeing what the limits are for that game. There are only 10-minute rounds, so there's only so much you can do during that time, but if you're doing a objective-based mode, you can really see the potential of like having all 5 players using their abilities in different and cool ways and trying to find experimental ways to win a match.
And the cool part about it is like, hey, you got a group of 5 guys, 5 people that are playing, and you're in good chemistry. You're on a voice chat or whatever. You're in a Discord chat and you're talking. Like, you could have a blast. Yeah. However, you could also snowball the shit out of the other team.
Yeah, and that often would happen in this game, to where if we would jump into a game, and I will say, this definitely doesn't feel like a game built for someone to Call of Duty hero lone wolf their way through a match.
Correct.
Yes. I was getting destroyed if my team wasn't sticking together. Like, we would have to decide early on, like, okay, you 3 go here, you 2 go there. Never all 5 of us go wherever we want.
That doesn't surprise me with the heads of these studios when... Circling back to a little bit of Destiny, when the PvP was kind of at its worst with a lot of hand-holding and team shooting and grouping, that I saw similarities to that. On the surface, for me, the 10 matches I played, maybe not even 10, time to kill was forever.
It can be if you're not working as a team.
Yep. So me learning as a player, playing a hero shooter the first time of like it was forever. Yeah. I understand and I respect that it's a beta. It was mentally character overload for me. Of like who to pick, how they play, what they do, and there really wasn't any kind of tutorial at all. Yeah, like anything.
They did say they put out some messaging today that was like, "Hey, we are going to have like a single player training mode so we can test out the players," and I really think they needed that for the beta.
Because I agree, because I kind of tapped out. I'm like, I didn't know what to do.
Yeah, and
oh, that's how that fires. Oh, I hold that, and then it fires a stronger shot. Oh, that's a wall, but it doesn't damage people. Oh, what is that? An EMP? Like they didn't tell me.
Yeah, and there's 2 things that I would say is kind of an early failure. Is I do not think this game has good character design. on two levels. You'll hear people that don't like the character design for shitty reasons, but I don't like the character design from someone who's played Overwatch and Apex, Valorant, all those stuff. Is when you look at the character designs in like an Overwatch or an Apex, just by looking at the character, you kind of get an idea of what their abilities are and what they can do. It's very subtle, and it's kind of hard to explain.
Like a ninja movement or a big bruiser.
Yeah, exactly. And this game doesn't
kind
really
of
have that ability.
Kind of.
Yeah.
But not, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Of like, I could pull up Valorant, or I could pull up Overwatch, or I could pull up Apex, and I knew I knew if I was watching a stream, I knew how the controlled player was going to be playing, what style he was playing based on just the hands.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
just the general character design, or in like Overwatch, they might do like a little movement that like kind of shows their ability, or a voice line that kind of gives you a hint. And I don't think this game does that at all. To where like I had to click on each character during a round, and there were so many games that I did lose.
You don't have time.
Yeah, like there were so many games that I was getting killed pretty frequently because I would use a different character. And then be like, what the fuck do they do? Because the explanation of their abilities isn't good enough for some instances.
Right, and you only get like 5 seconds to make a choice.
Yeah, yeah.
So after you die.
So that's definitely something I think is like kind of a failure with their character design. That can be kind of corrected by having that training mode in the complete game. But that's one failure with it. And also, two, with the character design, I don't like the space junk kind of old Star Wars design stuff.
Space punk.
yeah. I call it space junk because everything just kind of looks thrown together. I think that stuff doesn't really work too well. And they didn't really show anything in the beta of like, we have cool designs and costumes that you can unlock for these characters. The way their character progression goes, there's no battle pass for the game. They said like, hey, it's a $40 game. We're not doing a like battle pass on top of it. You're basically playing a character, and as you progress with that character, you're unlocking different stuff. But in the beta, I only really saw palette swaps, and I couldn't preview costumes that I can work towards down the line. Hopefully that'll be changed into the final game, just so I can have an idea of what I actually am working towards. But the initial designs for some of these characters, they just weren't appealing, and a lot of them just kind of look like background characters in a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. None of them had main character vibes outside of like maybe like 3 characters. And I think that's important because for a new IP, you need some iconic characters, and I really didn't see any iconic character designs or any characters that immediately drew my interest. And what helps is if those character designs kind of hint at what their abilities are. I ended up playing 2 characters I didn't think I was going to gravitate towards just because I found their abilities were interesting, but I found by experimentation, not by like immediately being like, that's my character.
Yeah. Do you see them giving this game out with Plus?
I think so. I think this is going to be one of those things where 3 months down the line, this will end up turning into a Plus game just because this game's not going to do well on PC. Yeah. That's already a given. PC's too crowded of a market right now for a $40 game, and I know Hell Divers was a $40 game that came out, but it was appealing to a different genre audience. Yeah, this game is going to have a struggle with that. The character design stuff they can fix with cool costumes and cosmetics that they can add to the game, or might already be there in the final product. I just don't know it. I'm fine with no battle pass because I don't really like battle passes. The idea that everything's there because you paid $40 is good. You just have to unlock it by playing. Fantastic, but I do need a preview of that before buying the game to see if there's anything actually worth getting.
At least the first season or 2, right? I mean,
yeah. But this game is going to have a lot of struggles. Just looking at the market right now, free to play, Apex, struggling a little bit, but has a solid base.
But just came out and said they're redoing their battle pass system too.
Yeah.
So like they're preparing for the Concord rush.
Yeah.
Or what they think might be a Concord rush.
And they also changed your battle pass and it was shitty, so now they're fixing it, going back to the old ways. You have Overwatch 2 free to play, struggling, but still a big piece of the industry. Rivals is coming soon, free to play. Valorant,
much more character attachment with Marvel.
Yes. Valorant, well established on PC, coming to console, free to play. the market is just too big right now. There's too many things to try and compete against.
It took them too long. It took them too long.
Yeah.
It might be a solid game. It just took Firewalk too long.
Yeah, and that's ultimately what's going to be a shame about this game. Sorry, I'm predicting its downfall now, and I hate to be like that. Is mechanic-wise, I think they have a very interesting game. I do like the game modes that they do have in it, and it was just like deathmatch, trophy hunt, which is kill confirmed.
Well, you kind of called this with Suicide Squad too.
Yeah, and this is just one of those things where like solid gameplay mechanics can only take you so far in a crowded market. You kind of have to read the room, and just because you put it at $40 doesn't mean it's going to be more competitive against free-to-play games as opposed to if you made it a $60 game. Like, you'll
get the people that don't want to do what you said, that don't want to grind the battle passes or whatever, and be like, "Oh, cool, I can just play. I don't have to like think about I don't want to, but it's free to play, but do I want to invest $15 or $20 versus okay, it's $40 and I'm good for at least a year." We assume.
Yeah. They said there are going to be multiple seasons, so you'd hope that they would see that through. And also, this is PlayStation's like first actual commitment to like a live service game, and we don't know how strong that commitment is going to be. Right. Especially, this game was greenlit under the previous leadership. New leadership is now going to take this ball and do whatever with it. I don't want to see this game fail. Like, again, mechanic wise, I think it was fun to play. I did like some of the character abilities, but there's just decisions that were made with it that I think are going to hurt. I also think it's weird that there are like variants of the characters that you unlock. So I don't know if you noticed, but like Lennox had like 2 character slots. He was like the alien guy.
I think it just confused me more.
Yeah, so each character will have a variant, but the only difference is their passive ability. So you can get new passive abilities for your character, but it just opens a new character slot. You can't swap those passive abilities with your current character, and it looks like that those variants have their own like unlock tree, which just makes it feel grindy for no reason, which is just confusing. I need a better explanation of that system because it's a head scratcher and almost feels like they just wanted to have another character slot filled without.
Oh, we have 16 characters, and really you have 10.
Yeah, that's how it kind of felt.
Or 12, maybe.
Yeah. So I need to see that whole system going. They have a month. The changes that they need to do to the game in terms of like a quit penalty, maybe kind of change like every time you die, having to like repick your character. If you can opt out of that, that would be nice because I just kind of want to stick with the one character. I don't want to have to pick that character every time. The game modes seem fine. There's just like little tweaks that they need to do. Character balancing definitely needs to happen. There were some OP characters in the game, but that's
inevitable,
happen.
Though.
Yeah. So there's stuff that is fixable. The biggest barrier it's going to have is being a $40 game in a market that has established free-to-play competitors.
Right.
But we'll see where that goes.
So they really need to... I mean, they need to have some kind of state of play, though, right?
Yeah.
Like they need to have like a dedicated like communication time of Concord of this is what your money's getting you. This is how the game's going to function. This is our roadmap. Like we've talked about this with multiple other games. Like this is what we're doing for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
Here's what your $40 is going to get.
And today they did a thing where, they put out 3 pictures with a bunch of text on Twitter, and that's not a roadmap. That's also a horrible way to message stuff because I hate having to click on a picture on Twitter and then I gotta like zoom in on my phone to like read the text.
Yeah.
I need a state of play with a full roadmap, like you said. I need a full breakdown on like the cosmetics that I'm unlocking. I need explanations on the variants. I need to see all 12 maps that the game's gonna launch with. I need them to go all out with like, hey, this is why we're charging $40.
Yeah, it just seemed like, at least from the little bit I was seeing on social media from them, is that it seemed like they were either watching streamers or seeing what you were seeing, similarity on their, like, oh, why did they leave? Oh, and then looking at data about how they played and what they did. Because, like, these companies can see how many steps you took, what direction you took them, when you fired and when you didn't fire. Like, all that data they can see. And it seemed like they went into, like combat mode. This Firewalk went into combat mode, like right off the bat of like, hey, so the next beta, like we're doing this, and this is how this works, and this is how, like, why wasn't that before?
Yeah,
I opened this game and it was like, oh, you're in the game. I'm like, I don't even know how to shoot. Like, I mean, I know how to shoot, but
yeah, like just how the abilities worked, which abilities were worth it. Just trying to figure out, like, you look at the character designs and you're just like, okay, so that guy's clearly the run and gunner.
I feel like 4 characters or 6 characters in the closed beta would have been better. I'm like, okay, hey, now you have 10 characters. Like, you know, like I don't know. Like, I didn't feel like I just felt like I played a whole bunch of matches and went nowhere.
No, and that's how it felt. And not having a clear direction for each of the characters, I still think comes down to like character design, because it was kind of hard to find a character that you.
And I wanted to like this. I was trying to like this.
Yeah.
Like, these are guys that made my favorite game. Like, and like you said, the gunplay feels great. I think the map design is solid. Like, removing
the
aesthetics
verticality is pretty good too. Like the double jump.
Removing the visual aesthetics, like a good balanced parallel map with good turn points and not feeling like you're going into death tunnels and, you know, like long, you know, like those kind of things, like the core construction of a map, you know, lanes and like highs and lows and verticality and depth and some destructibility. Like, I think that those things are all solid, but I felt severely overwhelmed
in terms of just like the direction things are going, and also I felt underwhelmed in terms of just like character designs. Also, some of those the cutscenes that they released for the game that you saw, I just felt like this felt flat. It just felt like, okay, this is like basic Marvel humor. And I'm a Marvel person, though I'm someone who's gotten kind of tired of Marvel over the last couple years. But it felt very much like, hey, we're going to kind of go into Marvel with a little bit of video game humor here, and maybe here's a little bit of Portal type writing in here. And it didn't feel like it had its own voice. It just kind of felt like it was just doing what it thinks people want from certain things, but in a way that just didn't felt genuine. So I don't know. I like. This might be one of those games we pick up just to mess with and see where it goes. But like, I was talking to some friends today, and I was just like, I can't confidently tell you should pick this up for $40. You know, like, because I would feel bad telling you to pick this game up, and then I'm like, actually, I'm not into it. Sorry, peace out. We're not gonna play on the same team or anything like that, because I'm not gonna play this game. This game's kind of a tough sell. And I've seen some people excited about it, but it definitely felt like the people that were excited about it were the people that are just like, I'm going against the mainstream sort of thing. So we'll see how that ends up working out. And
don't get us wrong. Like, I mean, I understand. I've read the stuff. I've seen what everybody said. This is not an Overwatch clone. This is not like, but it's still at its core, it's still a hero shooter. And there's just a lot of hero shooters out there. I hope it does well, but it just doesn't look like the chatter that I saw from both beta weekends. It was either love-hate. There was really no in between. It was either they loved it or they totally hated it, and I saw more hate than love.
Yeah, I saw some people trying to defend it, and like, bless their hearts. Like, I think they were in the right frame of mind trying to do it, because they have hopes for this. It's PlayStation's like big leap into, you know, live service stuff, but it's, I don't know. It just doesn't feel there. I hope I'm wrong. I hope there's a state of play.
At its core, a hero shooter that's not fun to play single player is not going to succeed.
Yeah. Especially this thing, like, just, you know, from the 40 matches I played, you definitely need a group of people to play this with, because like the matches just kind of go that way. So, and that's not
fun to do, because then you have to set up nights and times and hope all your friends are there, and it can't be one of those things like, to you, like, I've seen you do it. I've publicly like been sitting in the same room as Michael. Oh, cool, we have an hour to kill after lunch. Okay, I'm gonna play a couple matches Overwatch before we leave. Like, you can't. I don't feel like you can do that with Concord if you don't have a squad.
Yeah, and the game is gonna need all the personality in the world to get people to jump into it. This game is going to be one of those ones I'm not going to be surprised in October, November. They're like, hey, guess what? PlayStation Plus. And by then, hopefully, you'll have like an influx of players that come into it, and then that's when the game can be successful. Right. But based off those PC numbers, I don't have confidence in it. I will say I didn't really have issues with matchmaking. Never had to wait more than like 30 seconds to a minute to join a game during the open beta period.
Right.
but it was
server
available.
stability, all that stuff was fine.
Yeah, but it was most likely because they opened it up to all PlayStation Plus subscribers at a certain point. But it definitely has a long road ahead of it. But Dave, enough about Concord. Tell me about college football.
So it was fascinating, actually, just to see, like, there was a lot of chatter about this. I think a lot of people, we heard tons and tons of chatter about this. I think a lot of people didn't necessarily realize the amount of hoops that they had to go through to get this game out in terms of, like, NIL deals. So, name, image, and likeness was the biggest reason why college football 13 or NCAA football 13 or 14 was the last
14.
one we saw. 14. Until college football 25. There's a reason it's not called NCAA. That has to do with name, image, and likeness. So right off the bat, there's a couple things that people discovered. In offline dynasty mode, you cannot just create a player and just make them. I assume that's because of name, image, and likeness. So you can only create your player in Road to Glory, which is the single player, like, doing college academics and other stuff than just football. And then you also cannot edit rosters. So, duh.
Yeah. That'll be taken care of on PC eventually.
It's not on PC now, though.
Oh, shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I think a lot of this, obviously has to do with the player rights deal. And there's a lot that goes into that. But I mean, at its core, like the dynasty with the recruiting and being able to DM recruits and DM their families and make a visit and like spend all the points, like it gets like super deep, and you have money deals you're trying to get for the players that you're recruiting them, all while you're still also trying to play football, and you have to manage the transfer portal and stuff like that. So the minutia of it's playing a dynasty or trying to take an old school, like a terrible school, and make them a power in multiple years, or to move up yourself as a coaching tree and start in a little small school as an offensive coordinator and take a head coaching job and then take a bigger head coaching job and take a bigger head coaching job. Like those things are all there, and those are all things that Madden is missing. Madden can never recreate those, and that's where that desire comes from for college football. The numbers for the early access were just fucking outstanding. I mean, I think Monday night, when most people didn't know the game was gonna be live because it really wasn't supposed to be live until Tuesday, I think there was like 750,000 people playing. So those are all people that paid at least $100 for the game.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if I was trying to look really quick while we were talking here. I was trying to see if there was anything that talked about player count or how many people. I've seen some stuff about stuff that they're saying they're going to fix already, which is not surprising in terms of patching and just other things that they're still working on, like just a bunch of little like logo minutia and stuff. But
yeah, 2.2 million people during the pre-order period.
That's crazy.
4-day pre-order period.
Yeah, like that's not even the people that just paid $70 for the game. Similar to what we talked about earlier, just I think the reintroduction to people playing games again, possibly re-entering into the gaming space with this game is pretty high. The amount of people that I've kind of seen talking about it on my social media timeline, that again, this is kind of like Red Dead Redemption levels of like, I'm like, oh, I saw somebody like talk about, oh, I'm taking work off today for Red Dead. I'm like, oh, you play games? Like this
if you want to hear this number, they did put out during the first day of pre-orders on Xbox, it was the number 3 played game behind Call of Duty and Fortnite. And then on PlayStation, it was number 4 behind Call of Duty, Fortnite, and GTA 5.
Yeah.
During the pre-order period. I think that like Sunday or whatever. So yeah, that's huge. Because not everyone pre-orders games.
Right. Like a lot of people don't. So, like just kind of like it's cool. Like I'm enjoying it. I'm liking it, playing as a couple of random schools. I'm actually going to this week, like in the next day or two, I didn't necessarily want to. I was trying to avoid doing it, but it's just inevitable with the amount of people that are playing it and on my friends list. And, like I'm going to have to buy it on Xbox and PlayStation. I mean, I already own it on PlayStation. I'm going to have to buy it on Xbox because there's no crossplay for Online Dynasty, which sucks.
Are you gonna have multiple dynasties going based on how many people are on each?
Oh, I'll probably have 2 or 3 dynasties on each console.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Maybe I'll try to just limit myself to 2 on each. But it is kind of forcing me to buy like an HDMI switch for my television in my living room because I've been moving the Xbox around a little bit. Owen's been playing it. And tying to this, so we were in Toronto. 4-hour drive from Detroit to Toronto. We did Niagara Falls. We did Toronto. I went to the Tigers Blue Jays game on Friday. I went to the Tigers Blue Jays game on Saturday with a friend of mine. One time with my wife and Owen, and then another time with a good friend of mine from elementary school that lives in Canada. We did all the tourist stuff in Toronto, but 4 hours in a car there, 4 hours in a car back. Angela and I are kind of talking on the way back. She had seen me watching either some TikToks or some reels about somebody that had a PS Portal for college football. Mm-hmm. And so she's in the car, and I'm like, she's talking to me about it. I'm like, Ange, I can do this on my ROG. Yeah. She's like, I know, but she's like, she's telling me, she's listening to me. She's like, I hear you. Like, your ROG is heavy. Like, I've picked it up. It's heavy. I don't see you like wanting to play that in bed. She bought me a Portal. Oh, okay. It's probably going to go back.
Yeah.
So, because 6 feet away from my console, it's lagging.
Yeah, you're better off using your ROG. It'll probably be a similar experience, but you'll be better off.
Yeah. So, but I need to test it on the ROG before I return this. But like, the setup was easy. Mm-hmm. The Portal is super light. The screen is awesome. The buttons and the controls and everything feels great. The functionality of it feels great. For some reason, in my head, I had it as $300, as $200.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't work.
It works for some people. Did you update it as well? Like, ran all the updates? Yeah.
Yep.
So I know some people that are having wonderful experiences even when they're outside of their house. Yeah, but it varies depending on like home internet, the internet you're connected to.
Her entire thought process for it, and I love her for it, and it's great. And she wants me to be comfortable and have fun. And she thought that I could just, half an hour before bed, I could be playing it and doing some of my recruiting. Like, she literally is like, if it costs, for you to have an easy access to your college football game while you're doing offline stuff or doing all the non-football stuff, she's like, I get it. Or she's like, or if you're doing a bunch of minutia stuff on your game that I don't want to do while we're watching TV or whatever, you can do it on the Portal. Like, and I'm fine. And it's a really, really cool piece of tech.
Oh yeah.
But everything, I don't have the ability or the option currently with my house, the way my house is set up, to hardwire my PS5 upstairs. Mm-hmm. I don't. And everything I was reading said you need to hardwire it. I even took my PlayStation 5 down to 1080p. I made sure that I was on the 5 gigahertz thing. Like, I watched a bunch of videos of trying to figure out connectivity things
Power
and
line
all
adapter,
that stuff.
$40 will
hardwire. But is that going to fix my lag problem?
It could a little bit.
Okay.
It'll at least give your PlayStation a more stable connection.
I'm getting the damn signal in the top right hand corner, that gray box with a yellow triangle on it. That's in it. Sometimes it's good, but honestly, sometimes it's bad.
It's like paying an additional $40 to get your $200 machine to go when you have a $600 machine that can also kind of do what you need to do.
And I'm also hearing there's like a different remote play thing that works on the ROG that costs like 15, or a piece of software that costs like 15 or $20 that actually works way better than Kakacha or the remote play app. But you have to pay, you have to purchase it. I have to look into it a little bit more. If it works well, I think there's a trial. So if it works great, like, I'll spend the $15. Yeah. Like, that doesn't bother me if it works. But I'm just like, everything that everybody told me, I was even talking, I messaged Kyle. I don't think I messaged Palmer. I don't think Palmer has one, but I was trying to talk to people that have this. I'm like, what am I missing? And then, some people are like, well, I don't really do any like super taxing games on it. I did like Sea of Stars on it. I did play Spider-Man.
Sarah does Final Fantasy 14 on a MacBook using the Remote Play app, and it works flawlessly for her.
Okay.
But again,
is your console hardwired?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Again, this kind of comes down to like the quality of people's home internet,
But my internet's not bad. I have fiber.
No, I know, but there could be other blockers on the ISP side that could be causing you an issue. It could be like a port forwarding issue. This could also be resolved by just like one quick call to your ISP being like, this is not optimal. It's back then, remember on a PS3 when there were different NAT types?
Yeah. I've got like a 13-day window left that I can take this thing back to Best Buy.
Yeah.
So I think it's like 15 days or something like that. So I have an alarm set on my phone. Like, I'm legitimately trying to do this. Like, and I need to
test the ROG.
I need to I need to test the ROG. Yeah. I mean, I haven't really given the ROG a check. Yeah. I'm with her though. Like I've tried to play the ROG in bed sometimes. That is a heavy piece of heavy device. So I'm also hearing with the remote play on the ROG, you have to play with a DualSense. Like, you can't use the onboard controls.
That's probably what that app that you're talking about would just basically. It still probably makes you use the remote app, but it then connects to use the controller.
Yeah, so I'll have to do a little bit more digging into that. But I mean, overall, I'm having a blast with what I played with college football so far. Trying to give I don't know, there's 6 or 8 people that are in our Discord server that talked about it. I'm trying to give everybody like some time to get comfortable with recruiting and playing, and trying to decide like I need to kind of run through some dynasty stuff and see how dynasty functions. Is it fair to do 5-star schools versus 3-star schools? Like there's a lot of things there, and just the character that Madden's missing, that college has, of like the stadiums being loud, the quarterback being a sophomore. That is like the cool
feature. Like that was going all over TikTok of people going.
Yeah, the lines going crazy and the charisma of the quarterback not being there, or the stadium shaking because you're going to Penn State for a night game.
Yeah, I was
going to
say, a whiteout Penn State with Mo Bamba playing sort of thing. That video was going around like crazy. And it's one of those things where it shows you that EA could let the Madden people get creative, but they're too locked into their system.
They are,
like,
but
yearly releases.
It's not like it's you heard about it. Like, I mean, I guess selfishly for me, like I heard about it a little bit with Detroit. Detroit had the Lions had massive success this year. Coming to Ford Field was a challenge, an enclosed dome with 60,000 people that haven't had a playoff game in 30 years. Like, yeah, they're going nuts. But like you're not as big of a football fan as I am. But like,
no, I know it's completely different.
Soldier Field is dangerous to play at. Like, because they can, the Bears are, like
outside of Chicago, the Chicago danger.
10 years ago, going to New England to play in Gillette Stadium. It wasn't like a hard place to play.
No, but I know that. But what I'm saying specifically is just the creativeness around getting that feature together. Of having that be a feature, because I see it's almost damn near impossible to play at Penn State at night during a whiteout game because your controller's going nuts.
But it was like that 12 years ago too.
Yeah,
like it existed.
But just the fact that like they were like, hey, we need to really beef this experience up. This is a cool feature that's like exclusive to this game.
Yeah,
I wish they would look at Madden that way and be like, what is something distinctly NFL related that we can do that's interesting and fresh and new? And instead, they're just same shit over and over and over.
I mean, you could do like Road to the Glory you can do Road to the Glory as an underdog player and not see the field for 3 years, but try to be a perfect student to get the coach's trust. I mean, it's crazy. You can build a player, you can build a coach, you can build a program, you can be an assistant coach. Like the depth is just nuts there. And I haven't played enough Madden recently to tell you if it's there. And you can tell that EA knew what they had with this college football for the most part. Like, because they're just kind of like bundling Madden with it for like $150.
Yeah,
like you can spend $150 and get all of it, and just please buy Madden because you can convert your player over. Please go play Madden again.
And that's what I was going to ask. Are you going to be able to like draft your player?
From Road to Glory, I think you can graduate him, and I think you can retire him and restart him in college, or you can like upload him to Madden.
The next step is having a child in the game. It turns into The Sims. You take your character to The Sims, start a family, have a child.
It's all EA.
And then put that child into the next college football game. There you go.
Yeah, it's all EA. So,
think about
but
it.
Yeah, like I said, we'll get this dynasty going up in a little bit, probably in a week or maybe another week to 10 days. I'm still trying to it's really iffy boundaries of like, do I try to advance once a week, and then it takes us 12 weeks to go. I don't want to know if I want to take 3 months or 4 months to go through a season with our community. But then I'm respectful that every like a 48-hour advance is too fast for some people. Like, so there's this delicate balance of trying to figure it out.
If you're listening to this, join the Discord, join the College Football 25 channel, and you guys have to hash this out. Of trying to figure out.
Yeah, ultimately, like the first step is like, do we want a dynasty? Like, a couple people said early on that they did, but now I think it's down to like 2 or 3 people that were interacting with some of the votes or the questions I was asking. So, but yeah, if you do want to try a dynasty, and we can go slow at first, and then we can speed it up if we find that people are able to play. If everybody's done, I'm not going to wait 4 days because once every player game is done, I'll advance it. But. Let me know. Let us know. Come and join the Discord, hang out, check it out. But yeah, like Niagara Falls, Toronto was fantastic. Toronto is a very cool city. Again, just going to major cities like LA and San Francisco, Seattle, I'm just amazed by public transportation that we don't have in Detroit.
Detroit's public transit is very specific,
non-existent.
Yeah.
but like the train system to the subway system to the, like just like I would not want to bring a car into downtown Toronto. I don't want to say his full name just because to protect him, but huge shout out to Roy. He's a listener of the show. He lives outside of Toronto. He opened his home to me and my family. So Roy's been listening to us since like the PS Nation days. He's an awesome guy, and the awkwardness of like I met his wife and his kids and stuff like that, and they had never met me, like that part that went away pretty quick. They have Canada has a really cool theme park outside of Toronto called Canada Wonderland, Cedar Point owned park, so like that was really cool. But I did the typical touristy thing behind the falls at Niagara Falls, the river walk. If you're friends with me on Facebook, there's tons and tons and tons of pictures on Facebook of stuff that we were doing, why we were doing that. But it was a really cool experience to do that, to do some stuff. I had never been to Niagara Falls before, 41 years old, never been there. So like that was great. It was just kind of cool to get away. So again, thank you guys for being cool with us taking a week off. We all have lives and everything like that, and family's important, and getting some time away from our routines is important. So I appreciate everybody's understanding of that. Sorry for the super short notice. But other than that, that's all I got. You got anything else?
No, that's pretty much it.
All right. So yeah, again, just follow us on social media at Digital Days Pod. Michael is at the First MJC. Myself is at Good Dave Hunt. We have a Facebook group and a Discord server. Discord server is more the area that I would lean towards that you joining and checking out. And then again, our patreon.com/Digital Days Gaming. But circling back to that Discord server, there's collection stuff in there. There's the college football stuff in there. There's decent conversation around like Helldivers 2 is getting ready to release some big update next month. So there's been a little bit of conversation in there. But, if you just come in there, join in there. Some days it's active, some days it's not. So we try to keep an eye on it and see what's going on. But some of that just depends on what people are playing. But definitely check it out, especially if you want to do the Dynasty stuff. If you're going to start playing Helldivers 2 after the August 6th update. If you picked up Suicide Squad on the Epic Store during Prime Days for free, there's a little bit of chatter about that, and maybe some people can help you. I should go back to that game, but I probably won't. I
knew it was on Prime, and I was so disinterested, I didn't even click it when I was on the page. I was like, I don't want it.
Yeah. So there's your sandwich or Suicide Squad review there for Michael.
But this was like free Suicide Squad, and I was still like, nah, I'm fine.
Yeah. So, all right, that's it for this week. As always, you can send us questions using hashtag AskDigitalDays, and we'll answer them on the show. But other than that, I hope everyone has a great week and keep moving forward.
Don't be a dick. See ya.